Everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the third and final session for the department overviews. If you happen to miss the other ones, they are online, so you're welcome to look at some of the other departments that presented earlier. Today we have 7 presentations, so they are going to move a little bit faster, and we'll take questions with each department head, so you can ask anything that comes to mind, or if you think of something later or one of your neighbors thinks of something, we'll make sure that we have all of our contact information online so that you can contact us afterwards. We have really enjoyed doing these sessions, so hopefully we'll get to continue to do these in the future. Hopefully, if you or your neighbors want to look at those videos, we can provide them or email them out as well. So with that, we'll get started with community development. This is Dave Shinneman.
Thanks, Ann. And I'm the Director of Community Development. I've been here for about 11 years. It's our mission to assure that development and redevelopment within Broomfield occur in such a manner as to enhance and complement Broomfield. We work with the community to assure that established standards are met for property maintenance and for property development. The department will work with and be a resource for the community, the city, and other city departments. The objective is for information is to prepare information to implement the adopted programs that Broomfield provides. We do have let's see if I can go to the next slide. Our operating budget is about $6.7 million, and our capital improvements budget is about $6.7 million. So I think it's just a coincidence that they coincide this year. But the 2019 capital improvement budget includes all of the capital improvements that are throughout the city. Capital improvements within Broomfield is defined as something that has a useful life of over 1 year and a dollar value of over $10,000. We have 9 different operating funds within the department. This is our organizational chart, and I know it's difficult to read, but we have the planning division, the building division, the transportation division, the engineering division, capital improvements, code compliance, and GIS. We also have an administration division that helps support the 10 administrative positions that we have within the department. These are all of the departments, and you can see we have a circle because we all work together, and then we work with the other departments and the other divisions within the city, as well as other regional and neighboring communities. The department provides, we call it one-stop services for planning, engineering, and building activity within the city and county of Broomfield. You come to community development, you can start the process if you're starting to develop a greenfield site. You can go through the development review process, and we have to take you through that. That goes through the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council, and oftentimes many of the other advisory committees like the Open Space Committee or the Parks Committee, Housing Committees, and we bring all of those comments back before a project goes forward. The administration division is it's led by the director. The director, and what I do is manage the operations and maintenance of the department. We try to achieve the leadership objectives of the city and county of Broomfield, including helping with the priorities and making sure those are reached. And the priorities are set by City Council every year. The administration division also collaborates with the other department employees, external departments and divisions and entities to deliver effective and innovative services. So we're constantly working with other departments to make sure those leadership objectives from both the council and the administration are achieved. We have 10 administrative support staff. These staff are not just working for the administration or our administrative director, but they're also embedded within the department, so they're doing the work within the department. We brought them together so that they could also work together in the department and work in various divisions. So they're cross-trained and can often work on big projects that are occurring in a different division, whether that's building, planning, engineering, or capital improvements. Our planning department is led by our planning director. Her name is Anna Bertonzetti. The planning division reviews development applications for compliance with our development standards. Work is accomplished by a professional team, which includes 5 planners, And the planners work collaboratively with other departments, internal departments and divisions, and then outside agencies, property owners, developers, and residents to ensure development proposals are consistent with Broomfield's established goals and vision. I read that in like one sentence, but I want you to know that's a very collaborative and not difficult, but it's a engaging process with the community, engaging process with other divisions, and many times the comments are not coinciding. They're not the same. They're often conflicting asks, either by the residents or by different divisions, and so the planners are tasked with trying to get that narrowed down so we can bring a project forward for approval. A great job that the planning department does. Transportation. Our transportation division coordinates multimodal transportation activities within Broomfield and also regional coordination with RTD, the Colorado Department of Transportation, and DRCOG, the Denver Regional Council of Governments. We also coordinate funding of projects and services that may benefit Broomfield and the region. Broomfield participates in the coordination of project and priorities along US 36, I-25, and State Highway 7, and then with other community partners to build a robust multimodal network with both North and Northwest Denver metro area. One of the things we do is work with FlexRide. FlexRide is a transportation service that's provided to all Broomfield residents on an as-requested basis, and here's a short video. I'm not sure if it's showing. Their sound. Anyway, you can call for FlexRide to come pick you up at your home. Many residents use that, and then they can get to services, medical, school throughout the city and county of Broomfield. We've prepared a grant last year that's been funded that does provide for free ride services throughout Broomfield, and that's occurring this summer, and that's through the end of August. And the former name was Call and Ride, now it's FlexRide. Oops. Our engineering department, we're going back and forth. There we go. Our engineering department is led by Katie Allen. She's the city and county engineer. I think in 2009 we had a reduction in staff, and Katie, who was the capital improvements manager, took over the engineering division at that time and has stayed the director of both divisions. Quite a job. That team has a total of 11 people. They provide utility master planning, traffic and transportation planning, development review coordination from the engineering side, construction inspection and construction inspection through all projects that are going on within the city and county of Broomfield. So what's occurred this past year that's really taken up much of engineering's time is the increase in permits from the oil and gas activities that have occurred up north, and it's doing the permitting for the roads and inspection services to make sure all of that occurs in a coordinated and effective fashion. Next, we have the Geographical Information Systems Division. This division produces maps, graphics, and data from field collection. They use existing data and data created from other sources. They maintain databases to support this information, and they also maintain the assessor's land parcels, subdivision plats, street and open space maps, vicinity maps, and they maintain the address database. So all projects that are coming in, and we've got quite a bit of projects coming in, quite a few projects coming in, they're the ones that are working to make sure the addressing is correct and coordinating with North Metro and the police department on the street naming activities. They currently have 4 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees, and they also provide for the video resources that you see within the city council chambers and the other meeting rooms. And this past year, we just got a drone. It's one of the newest tools that GIS has received. I think we're going to show this. This is at the northeast corner of State Highway 7 and Sheridan Parkway. It shows a current commercial site that's under construction now. I'm going to get it going here, I think. If we can't get it going, Kyla, we'll go on the building. But it does provide some really good shots for development review. When we come in here for council meetings or planning and zoning meetings, we use that resource to show people what's around the area. It can also be used and coordinated with the police department or other departments to provide that information for those departments. Our building departments is dedicated to keeping, you can see this, the community safe by issuing building permits, making inspections, reviewing plans, and enforcing the building codes for all construction within the city and county of Broomfield. If you've been driving around, you know that we've had quite a lot of construction within the city and county of Broomfield, from hotels to large industrial buildings, multi-story with elevators, multi-story apartment buildings, and a record number of single-family construction as well. Close to 500 units have been built. Their primary duties, again, are issuing the permits and providing all the required inspections. The building department is located, it's usually the front counter, and it's one of the busiest divisions on a day-to-day basis. I think that's, oh, I'm sorry, one more. More than one more. Code compliance. We have a new code compliance director, Brandon Murray. He leads a team of 3 code compliance officers. That division has not, again, grown since I took over in 2008. But they are responsible for the education and enforcement of the city's municipal codes related to property nuisances, zoning violations, and the other zoning and building codes within, not the building codes, but the other, some of the noise ordinances within the municipal code. The most common violations that they see are junk vehicles, weed and grass growth, and obstructed sidewalks from snow or vegetation. The division uses a variety of tools to achieve compliance with these codes, which include a courtesy notice up front, and then a notice of violation, and then finally, if the affected party does not come into compliance, it would come to a court summons. In 2018, Code Compliance issued notices for nearly 5,000 violations, and the number that go to court summons are very, very few. It's mostly voluntary compliance that we try to achieve. The one thing that Code Compliance has started this year, there's been 3 new ordinances that have come in place over the past 3 years. One is on chickens, a chicken ordinance. We now allow for chickens within the city and county of Broomfield. You cannot have a rooster, but there are requirements in terms of where that roost may be. Bee ordinance, and then finally the Airbnb, which is short-term rentals, and that's a new task for the division. We just we're working with an outside resource to help us identify where those are, to make sure they come in and get a license and help pay the taxes that are on those. Next, we have capital improvements, and again, our city and county engineer runs the capital improvements department. They currently have 6 project managers, an administration coordinator, and also an inspector for the field. Major projects this year include the wastewater treatment plant expansion, the Broomfield Community Center, which is just across the street here, the Dillon Road 144th expansion, the Public Works New Service Center, and the sanitary sewer force mains in the north area, the West Midway pedestrian bridge, and then the industrial lane bike and pet improvements as well. And that comes up with those large numbers. We have an example of one of the projects that capital improvements has done. I don't know if we can get the video to play. And this is the bike park out at McKay Lake Park. Catherine is the project manager for this project.
Recreation community. I also wanted to learn more about the intellectual.
What's going? I guess the streaming.
Disabilities community. There are a lot of cool things we've incorporated into the design for those with cognitive challenges. It was such a rich experience getting to be part of this project. I feel like just a participant and a student. I learned something from every person who had a part in the design and the construction and made me appreciate the Broomfield community even more.
This area is suited for children, for families, for older adults, for people with disabilities, and I think it's a very special place and that there's so many different experiences that you can have.
And that's just one project. Catherine, the project manager for that project, did a great job on it. It's a very innovative park. It's it's very widely used, and I think you can tell by what's there. It's not your normal playground where people go. It's a great park. The next division is department is the Housing Authority, and actually housing is a separate department. This is led by Cheryl St. Clair, and she works in partnership with our department and the community, federal and state housing funding and regulatory agencies and developers throughout the city. She helps meet the diverse and changing needs of Broomfield residents, especially those with low and moderate income, to enhance the quality of life. The latest action plan, which was submitted to council in July 23rd, the primary goals include a rental housing programs, existing homeowner programs, new homebuyer programs, homeless assistance programs, and community investment programs. 2019, Broomfield proposes to continue the funding of single-family rehabilitation and mobile home repair, continue urgent housing repair program, and to support private and nonprofit owners of rental housing to preserve the existing and or add affordable units to the Broomfield rental housing stock. And if you heard that last one on affordable housing, she is constantly working with community development on the new projects that are coming forward to try and encourage those projects to provide some affordable housing or some dollars that will help us to provide affordable housing in the future. So to help engage with us, these are just some of the sites. The Broomfield Voice is the online community engagement platform to give your feedback and input for the various projects in community development and initiatives in the city and county of Broomfield. And these are just some of those that we'll be working with. And this is our entire community development team, and pleased to be helping the community. So I'm here to answer any questions. If none, oh, yes, sir.
I just have one question. I just have one question. I live in Skystone, relatively fairly new community. And in talking to a couple of the building inspectors, I understand there's a program that where the developer was able to, I guess, pay the fees and then do their own inspections so that Broomfield doesn't have to inspect.
For some of the inspections, that's the case, yes.
What happens when the developer promised to do a good job and doesn't? Who's protecting us?
So the write-offs, well, it's a sign-off on the inspection, so they have an engineer or another building inspector that gives us a report that says that has been checked off. If it has not, you can certainly...
Again, when
yes,
they don't do a good job...
If it has not, you can certainly contact our building department, and we will send out our inspector to inspect again.
Well, you know, we've got a community pool, and we just found out that the builder didn't put GIF breakers in for the entire pool and put everybody at risk. We also found roofs with the hail that weren't complete. The sheathing wasn't done right. I don't really think it's a great idea. I understand that it saves the department money because they don't have to provide the inspections, but the developer still has to pay the fees. But that ends up leaving us homeowners in a real precarious situation when we thought government was going to protect us and at least that there was a quality product meeting code when it doesn't.
If it's not working, we need to change it. So,
I would say that a lot of people at Skystone, they have 519 units, and we're now seriously questioning backfilling, electrical, roofing. I don't think this program's working, sir. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, well, thank you for the input.
And developers like to spend money.
Okay.
And, you know, communities like to take it, and I want to see Broomfield get as much developer money as they can, but bypassing inspections because the developer promises to do a good job then doesn't sit well.
If I may answer. We do not bypass inspections. It's not saving money. It's allowing the builder to provide a secondary inspector to come out and inspect and sign off on that project. So it's not the builder signing off on the builder's site. There's actually another inspector that goes out. So somehow that secondary.
But who's paying for that who's paying for that inspector?
The builder is paying for that inspector.
There you go.
So yes, if that's not working, we can change that. What that does is delay it. So it's not that we don't get those funds. It's just that we cannot necessarily keep hiring inspectors to keep up with the workload that's been going on with the fluctuation that we've got within the workload. So it's an attempt to try and manage that workload. If it is not working, certainly it can be reduced. It could even be eliminated as a possibility, particularly for a builder who is not meeting the needs of the community or needs of the development. And so if that is happening, I'll certainly take those notes down and get that done. But it's not that we do not do the inspections. The inspections are done. They're just done by another outside agency.
So, Taylor Morrison is the example here, but this would go for any developer. In my opinion, Taylor Morrison only offers a 1-year guarantee on their work. And if they're self-inspected, which they've now elected to do in their next development down in Aurora, which doesn't concern us here, but the only 1 out of 5 developers that's self-inspected, maybe there should be encouragement that if they're gonna go self-inspected, then they got to provide a longer than a 1-year warranty on their work.
Well, and the inspections have to be approved by our building director, and I will certainly bring this up, and I'll check into it.
I mean, it's starting to be a list of things, and we're now concerned that Broomfield really didn't do anything but collect the fees.
Well, it's not just collecting the fees. I mean, we are pre-approving those inspectors that go out. We are looking at those inspection reports. We're just not having one of our inspectors, go out in the field.
How this was brought up was actually your inspectors complaining that they're not allowed to look at their work.
They have not brought that up to me, and I will check into it. So I apologize.
Me as the homeowner, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, if our inspectors are bringing something up to you that I haven't heard, then I will talk to them and find out about it.
Thank you.
If the homeowner would be notified that the inspection has been done by the third party and that the county has reviewed it and they've signed off on it, the homeowner should receive a notice that that's happened, so that if they do have still issues and they don't feel the work has been done, if I heard you correctly, then they can contact your office.
Absolutely. Lodge
a complaint, and that would take it the next step where you send your inspector over.
I'll make sure we get an inspector out.
So without upsetting the entire system, I think if you could just let the homeowner know that as far as you're concerned, everything is okay, and give the homeowner a chance to, and let the homeowner know that they can object.
Good idea. I'll talk to the building director too. I might not have all of the answers right now, but
we haven't seen the last subdivision in Broomfield.
Well, we've got lots of subdivisions in Broomfield. No, we're building out 940 acres in the north, so well as self-inspection. And it's not. It's not self-inspection. I need to bring the building director in, but it's not self-inspection. It's not. Taylor Morrison's not doing. They are paying the fees to us. I'm not sure if we're hiring it or Taylor Morrison, but I'll check into that. I think it's an issue if it's occurring the way you described it.
If promise falls apart, then
certainly
the homeowner gets left with the problem.
And that's who we're here to protect. Yeah. Absolutely. And we believe in that. I believe in that. So I will look into it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Does the housing authority only have one employee? Or just on the graphic, I think there was only one person.
Yes, one-person department.
It's a lot of programs.
We have a housing. We are in our administrative division supports housing. Same thing with transportation right now. We've just got one person in transportation. So yeah, it's a tremendous amount of work and agencies and programs that one person can only work on so often.
Thank you.
Any more? Economic vitality? Yeah. Did I get that right?
Yes, economic vitality. Good afternoon. My name is Jill Mendoza, and I am the Economic Vitality Manager here in the City and County of Broomfield. We recently had a new director start on Monday, so I'll be excited to introduce him to you at another time. Jeff Romine has come on board. All right. So economic vitality is encompassing everything that helps the community thrive from a business and property standpoint. Our primary responsibilities are for business retention and attraction. So working within the community to make sure that existing businesses are thriving and assist businesses that are interested in locating in Broomfield to look at the property inventories, go through the process when they decide on a location, help them and assist them through the process as they build out, and promote the businesses that end up locating here. We also look at redevelopment and revitalization efforts. So as you know, that there are many aging corridors in the city and county of Broomfield. So we make sure that we are actively and being proactive looking at those and working with the property owners to assist them. Can I have my slides? I'm sorry, I didn't print them out. I thought they would be available. Oh, okay. Perfect. Thanks. We also offer assistance programs to businesses. So depending on the amount of investment that the businesses will be investing in the community, we look at potential assistance to those businesses. We also do an exterior grant program, and that is geared towards smaller businesses with under 50 employees. And that program looks at enhancing the exterior of the business. It can be anything from parking lot improvements to paint to awnings to signage, anything that's visible from the outside of the business. And that program can match up to $25,000 for a project for a business. We also work very much in a regional effort to target industries and make sure that we are highlighting the opportunities here in the region and within Broomfield. We mimic the industries that exist within the Denver metro area, so things like aerospace, high tech, health and wellness are some of our key industries. Economic development is also responsible for a great deal of data and research. We have information on all the existing businesses. We have trends information. We look at housing. We look at wages, unemployment, all of those type of data and statistics we track and make sure that Broomfield is a vital place for not only our businesses, but our residents and within the community at large. We also partner with the workforce development efforts here in Broomfield. We have a workforce center, and I sit on that board. So we work very collaboratively with addressing the employment needs here in the community, as well as look at the employees and how we can make sure that they are best utilized and supported if they are looking for work. And finally, small business development is something that we work really closely on and will be doing even more so. We recently changed the name of the department to Economic Vitality, and that is to really look at, this isn't just bringing in corporate headquarters, it's looking at the whole range of businesses that exist in the community and how we can best support them. And oftentimes we do that through our community partners. We work very closely with the Small Business Development Center, with the Broomfield Chamber, with the Metro North Chamber, Metro Denver Economic Development. So we have a number of strong community partnerships that help to advance our economic development efforts here in Broomfield. We have such a strategic advantage based on our location. We're right in between Boulder and Denver. That's able to help us to market this location on a global scale. People are all familiar with Denver and Boulder, and so to put us right in the middle of that, it's a very strategic location. And as you've seen, we've had a number of international headquarters locate here over the course of time. So we're constantly being recognized as an amazing community, especially in terms of economic vitality. We've been ranked as one of the best places to live, healthiest communities, on a consistent basis. So our efforts are being recognized, and we do have wonderful statistics that reflect that. Just some statistics that you're probably already aware of. Our population is around 70,000. We're the 12th largest county in Colorado, fastest growing county. We have a little over 40,000 jobs in our community, and we continue to see that increase. Our unemployment remains at all-time lows, and our average wage, we have the highest average annual wage of any county in Colorado at close to over $80,000 a year. Again, back to our industries, we focus on these key industries: health and wellness, telecommunications, information technology, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, financial services, biomedical, aviation. And here are some of our top employers that most certainly you are probably familiar with, and the corresponding number of employees that they have. So great key employers that we have great relationships with here in Broomfield. Our office also manages the real estate here and wants to make sure that we have the highest and best use for all of the real estate that we have here in Broomfield. We have just over 6.4 million square feet of office product here in Broomfield. Our vacancy rate remains around 5.7%, and our average lease rates are around $26 per square foot. From a retail perspective, we have 4.9 million square feet of retail. Our vacancy rate remains very low, and that is mostly attributed to the product around the Flatirons Marketplace that has now been taken off of our rolls because they are going to be demolished. So all that vacant retail where Best Buy was is no longer in this calculation. So our retail vacancy rates are at an all-time low. We're seeing those lease rates around $28 a square foot. And finally, we have a really strong industrial supply here in Broomfield, and new product coming online with some consistency. We have 4.9 million square feet of industrial space. It's currently at about a 6.6 vacancy rate, and those lease rates are going for a little over $9 a square foot. Multifamily is growing, and as you are aware, we're continually looking at how we can densify some of our developments. We have about 7,800 units of multifamily, and as Dave mentioned, much more coming online. Our vacancy rate is currently at about 6.1, and our average market rental rate is $1,569 a month. As I mentioned, partnerships are a key to how we get things accomplished here with the Economic Vitality Division, and Some of our key partners, as I mentioned, the Broomfield Chamber, the Colorado SBDC, some real estate organizations, the state of Colorado, Metro Denver, and we work closely with site selectors to make sure that we keep Broomfield in front of them when they're working with corporate relocations. Just some examples of some of the partner engagement that we've had. We've had it far and wide. This picture in the bottom right is in New York City. But we also meet very closely with businesses here and bring and highlight. The one in the far top right is showcasing Broomfield to a group of national site selectors. So really trying to make sure we keep Broomfield front and center and a great place to do business. Some recent developments, Conga just moved into their facility over off of Via Vara. So that's an exciting high-tech company. Crocs is moving in right next door to them, and they'll be moving in March of next year, so they're in build-out right now. The Butterfly Pavilion is going to anchor the development up at Highway 7 and I-25. Masa Cocina is one of the most recent restaurants that have opened in Arista, and that's a Kevin Taylor restaurant, so we continue to get good chef-driven concepts here in Broomfield. Let's see what else. Our budget, we have about $544,000 budget for our department, half of which is for personnel, which at this point is 2, and it looks like we might be growing by 1 more. And then we have a lot of services that we contract, and that comprises the rest of our budget, very little supplies and equipment. Some of our goals are to implement the City Council priorities, and economic vitality is at the top of a lot of the council priorities. So we're constantly working towards making sure that we're addressing those. As I mentioned to begin with, business attraction, expansion, and retention is a top priority for our division. We are currently in the process of updating the Economic Vitality Strategic Plan, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in 2 slides. We are repositioning and advancing key assets and redevelopment efforts, so really taking a good hard look at the corridors that could use some reinvestment and how we want to approach that, and making sure that we're working hand in hand with the developer at State Highway 7 and I-25 to make sure that that project is a great anchor for business and all of the other economic vitality key components that we want to make sure exist up there. Some of our challenges right now, we're seeing somewhat increasing interest rates, or at least risk of that, national and international security threats, wage inflation, and a shortage of skilled labor. Workforce issues are the top challenge for any employer, regardless of industry, regardless of size. That is their number one challenge, and we are constantly trying to be creative in ways that we can support them. Transportation and infrastructure, also a key issue, as you have seen how much transportation can impact a community with what's going on Highway 36 right now. Transportation's a key issue that we're constantly addressing with both employers and within the community. We do have 2 strong regional transportation partners. We have Smart Commute Metro North, who works with us along I-25, and Commuting Solutions, who works with us along Highway 36. We're also seeing incentive policies and investments being looked at of how we do business here in Broomfield. How are we attracting businesses, and what do we need to offer in terms of being able to secure businesses coming to Broomfield? So that strategy is currently under advisement. We also see intense competition for retail and business development. All of our, especially within the region, looking at what businesses we'd like to bring in, we see some intense competition. And affordable housing and mixed income housing. That also is a major concern for employers, where they're going to house their employees and how we can address that. So as I mentioned, we are updating our economic vitality strategic plan. This process is called Advanced Broomfield, and you're going to see information about this ongoing through the end of the year. This is really taking a forward-thinking approach to how we do economic development and really expanding our view into the whole of economic vitality, not just looking at the business community, but looking at the health and wellness and vitality of the community as a whole. So this plan will include a much more broad look at things like the arts, housing, transportation, all of those additional concerns. It will also refresh our mission and our services in terms of how we approach economic development within our department. So it looks like that might have some impact on what we focus on and how we do that. And we're really looking for community engagement. We want a broad input from stakeholders of every type. And we really want it to be a participatory process with the community. So there will be many opportunities for the stakeholders to engage with us. And we want to enhance the value proposition for all stakeholders in the community. So to hear more information about this, you can look at our Broomfield Voice site, which is advancedbroomfield.com, or it's also located under the Broomfield Voice tab on the website. And you'll get updates there and opportunities for engagement. Our first engagement with council will be tonight during a study session, and we'll be presenting our initial plan for this process as well as a market trends report. So it's a very exciting time for our division, and I would like to introduce you to Jeff Romine. He just walked in, and this is our new director. So Jeff, you can... Yes, his second day, so... But we're happy to have him on board. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. Yes, let's get a mic. Hold on one moment.
When you mentioned the money, I think I have two questions here. When you mentioned the up to $25,000 match for the small businesses, is there anything that the city does to help new businesses rather than just helping businesses that are already established? That's my first question. And then the second one is, what is the budget for that? So you said up to $25,000 per business owner, and then what's the budget? So how many businesses would that affect? Or
Sure. So there's $100,000 every year that gets allocated to the Enhanced Broomfield program, and depending on the size of the projects, a business can utilize up to $25,000. So if we had 4 businesses that needed $25,000, that would only serve 4, but we often see smaller projects come in, so it's usually a handful of businesses a year, and we actively promote that. And I'm sorry, your first question? Of new businesses. So we handle new business recruitment on a case-by-case basis. So again, as I mentioned, it goes back to the total investment that they make in the community, the number of jobs that they bring into the community, as to how the city may partner to bring a business into the community. But all of those are handled on a case-by-case basis. Yes?
I saw no slide or mention of any oil and gas industry. Is that because there is none in Broomfield, or is there a reason they were not added?
It's not a primary industry that we focus on, although it exists here in Broomfield, and that's handled more on the communications and governmental affairs team.
And that's because it's more legally entangled?
It's not an industry that we see a lot of businesses that are headquartered here. They might have operations here, but it's not a key industry for us in terms of the businesses that we are focused on. In the back, to the right.
In my observations of council meetings, there's been a lot of comments about encouraging more local restaurants or local establishments for nightlife and that to come into Broomfield. And I wondered if there was any, I guess, examination of, those are small businesses. So is there any examination of the connection there, that the desire for more local businesses, restaurants might necessitate having more help for new and small businesses?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we are actively pursuing, and we definitely want to see chef-driven concepts, locally sourced foods, and we are, actively pursuing proprietors that could bring those things to Broomfield. One of the other challenges that we see is how do we create the right space for them? And that is what our economic vitality strategic plan is going to be looking. One of the elements that we'll be looking at through that is how do we make the right environment that is going to attract those type of businesses. So it is something we're very keen on and want to explore. Great. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Kristen Pritz. I'm the Director of Open Space and Trails for Broomfield. Thanks for coming this afternoon to hear us. And I'll start with our mission statement. Our main goals are to acquire open space and create a comprehensive trail system that allows for the enjoyment of the outdoors and promotes a healthy environment for people, nature, and community. So what we do is very much about people in the community, but also about nature in our community. That's very important. Our operating budget is just a little over $400,000. We have 3.15 positions, and let me explain that 0.15 because that's a little odd, I'm sure, when you see that. We have myself as full-time. We have and then 2 open space positions, and then we have an administrative analyst that works for several other departments, and we have approximately 0.15 of her time, and I think she gives us a lot more than that, I have to say. This is our staff. Pat is over on the left, Pat Chatterton. She's the administrative analyst. Pete Dunleavy is in the center. He's our open space manager. And then Ellie Lanigan just started with us recently on the right, and she's our open space and trails technician. So working relationships, that's a big topic for us. And I found this actual little toy here in a toy store this weekend that I thought I would bring to the presentation. This image was shared when I first started here with employees. Charles Ozaki shared that with us and tried to emphasize this concept of that we are very interconnected with other departments. And, there's push and pull sometimes, and that's part of coming to good decisions and having to hear out your colleagues. Particularly for our small department, that's really important because we are very interdependent on just about every department here in this. I can't think of one that we are not, and certainly the ones that have been presented today. So this image is really important to me, and rarely do we just launch off into the open space and say, this is what we're going to do, and that's it. We just don't work that way with the community or with our colleagues. Some definitions that are important to understand: open lands includes public and private, parks, and open space. And so it's an umbrella term for the other 2 definitions down below. Open space which can be agricultural land or natural spaces that haven't been developed at all, trail corridors, and then you have the other type of open lands, parks, which is primarily irrigated land that has athletic fields on it or park facilities like picnic tables and active recreation. We have recreation on open space too, but it tends to be more passive, such as wildlife watching, walking on the trails, cycling, those types of things. One of the key things we do is land acquisition, and we seek parks and open space lands. Our planning area is a little over 24,000 acres, and of that, there's a community goal that has really been around for a long time, since the 1995 comprehensive plan, to have 40% of our community in open lands. So that's public and private, open space, and parks. And so that could include even a private golf course. But the intent is to have that amount of acreage, a little over 9,600, in those uses. As far as existing open lands, we have a little over 8,300. Our current open lands percentage is 34.8%. We're slowly inching up. Each acquisition, it pushes us closer. And we still have a fair amount of land to obtain, which is a little over 1,200 or 5.2%. So we have actually in one of our master plans locations where we're looking at land, and we have completed a lot of those acquisitions, and those locations were determined by looking at the habitat, the character of the land, what our citizens wanted. Does it serve a purpose, such as a buffer between communities and so on? And one thing that I do want to note is, of that 9,600 acres, a portion of that is that big swath of open space that you see west of Lacamora along 96th Street and the Northwest Parkway. And we count that land in our open lands, and there's a reason for that. We have several intergovernmental agreements that were created when we became a county, and also when we built the Northwest Parkway. And so we had to work with Boulder County and the other communities in those areas to come up with their agreement to allow us to become a new county and to build that Northwest Parkway. A lot of this was before my time, to be honest with you, but there was a lot of hard work put into those intergovernmental agreements. And because we were taking ourselves out of Boulder County and not really going to be contributing to paying off the lands that they had purchased on our western border, we had to pay back the sales tax that was used to purchase those lands and pay off those bonds. So because of that, the people that were involved with those intergovernmental agreements negotiated that our citizens could use that open space just like a Boulder County citizen, and that we have a conservation easement interest in those lands. Some of those lands we actually own, but the significant contributions were made by Broomfield. For example, Ruth Roberts' open space that's just east of the pumpkin farm on 287, just north of the community there. I think we paid over 75% of that land cost. So those conservation easements are important for protecting the land, and we have a strong interest in those. We also construct trails with our capital improvement program staff, as Dave Shinneman explained to you earlier when he was talking about community development. And our community is very active, and they really enjoy walking, running, cycling, as probably all of you already know. And we have, in this trail type list here, we look at the concrete multi-use paths, soft surface trails, detached 8-foot sidewalks, and on-street bike lanes. And when you add all that up, it's 304 miles, which is significant for our community. Some people say, well, why do you include those 8-foot sidewalks? That seems a little strange. In a lot of our situations along roads, those 8-foot sidewalks provide those trail connections to trails that are really in the open space or the parks. We also do wildlife coexistence. That's a big part of what we do. And this can get a little conflict-oriented sometimes with coyotes, prairie dogs. We have a pair of nesting bald eagles over by 96th Street in the Northwest Parkway. And so when you add people and you add development, there can be conflicts at times. So we spend a lot of time talking to residents on the phone or meeting with them to talk about issues that they have. But our general approach is to coexist with wildlife. That doesn't mean that we actually save every single prairie dog. I'm just going to be very straight about that. But we do believe that the wildlife adds a lot to our community. But more importantly, that's what we're hearing from our citizens when we talk to them. We are very involved in community engagement. I think it's important to guide everything we do, and I think Broomfield as a community generally tries to reach out to the public. And there can be disagreement, but that reaching out is important, and hopefully trying to resolve conflicts as best as you can. So we go to public events. Perhaps you've seen our booth before. We have the coyote and the prairie dog and lots of information on wildlife and our trails. We do a lot of special events. We have estimated that we have about 5,000 people that come to the events annually, and our numbers of citizen responses are very high, over 1,600. And for us, that's a key outreach for keeping a good relationship with our community, or trying our best to keep that relationship positive. We are also very involved with development review, including oil and gas. For these development projects, the larger ones, we look at the on-site natural resources. We try to get significant public land dedication for the community, and we look at trail connections. With oil and gas, you may wonder, what are we doing there? Well, some of the oil and gas development is on open space properties, and even if it's not on open space, there are usually wildlife issues in the area. And so we work closely with the biologists to try to monitor those sites and make sure we minimize any conflicts. Our Open Space and Trails Advisory Committee is made up of 7 appointed citizens. So if you're interested in serving on this sometime, it's a very fun group. We also have 2 council representatives that come to our meetings, and that's very helpful to just keep that good communication with the city council and understanding what their thoughts are about some of these issues. So some topics we're working on. We're working on an eagle monitoring plan for a new project out by the Eagle's Nest that I mentioned. And so that's going to the Open Space Committee Thursday night. We are looking at our outline for our request for proposals for our open space and trails and parks and recreation, and that is a mouthful there, master plan. And so our Parks Committee and this group, our open space group, will be involved with that planning process. And again, there will be a lot of public meetings and discussion with the city council and so on. We work with volunteers a lot. You saw those events and so on. We cannot do anything without our volunteers. This morning we just had an event at the Metzger Farmstead. We own that property, 152 acres, jointly with Westminster. And we had an opening there. The family, the Metzger family, was there. But to make that all happen, we had the Broomfield Bird Club. We had some Coyote Crew representatives. We had the Broomfield Storyteller talking about the history of the project. So it's important to bring those kinds of volunteers into these projects to make them happen. That is it for me. I'm here for questions. This is a picture of Bruner Farmhouse. I hope you've had a chance to visit that site. And I just have to put a plug in for our Broomfield Open Space Foundation on August 24th. We have a brew fest there with the Open Space Foundation is raising money. And we'll have a band. And it's just kind of a nice, relaxed evening to kick back with your fellow citizens and enjoy the field open space and the Bruner Farmhouse. So thank you for listening to me. I'd love to hear any questions you have. Okay, I'm going to look for you at the Brewfest then. Thank you for coming today.
Good afternoon. I'm Sean Sullivan. I'm the City and County Attorney for the City and County of Broomfield. I've been here for just a little bit over a year, and prior to that I came from the other City and County in Broomfield, or in Colorado, excuse me, and that's the City and County of Denver, and I was there for about 28 years in either a line attorney position doing environmental work or as a supervisor for 14 years, about half that time. We've got a small staff of about 8 full-time equivalents with an operating budget of about $1 million, most of which is salaries. We also have some outside contracting resources as well. We have 6 attorneys and 2 legal assistants. The attorneys have areas of practice. We've got a municipal prosecutor. We have somebody that works with our human services department, does all the human services work, although that is expanded enough that we've got other attorneys in the office that are helping her with that. We've got an attorney that works with our land use department all the time, and then our deputy works on a variety of issues, including our employment and HR work and our capital construction projects and other transactional work that needs to be done for the city. We also have outside counsel, which I know I've misspelled there. I'm sorry. That should be SEL. We hire outside counsel when we have either a special need in an area of specialty practice, like water rights, bond counsel, municipal finance, urban renewal authority, oil and gas is another area where we get help. And then the other thing that we hire outside counsel for is when we have a case or a matter that we simply can't handle with our in-house resources. So we're looking at 2 things. We need specialty assistance, or we need additional resources. Broomfield, as a city and county, has both city and county functions. So all cities have a police department, and they maintain roads, and they build things, and they provide land use planning and those kinds of things, zoning, that kind of thing. But counties also have functions like the jail, the public trustee, the clerk and recorder that does all the recording of land title. We've got a human services department, which is a county function, which is a large part of the work, a large part of what the county does. And we've got a health department as well, which is also a county function. So this is an example of the kinds of cases that we handled last year, the types of matters. So on the left side in the gold is the Board of Equalization cases. These are our tax cases. This is appeals from assessments of either property taxes or of sales tax protests, those kinds of things. Then we've got in the middle in the blue municipal prosecution section. You can see we had in 2017-18 503 ordinance violation cases, 4,000 traffic tickets, 311 juvenile cases. Again, we also defend appeals of our tax assessments in front of the State Board of Assessment Appeals. You don't get many of those. It sort of funnels down as you go up. At different levels of appeal, you either get them resolved before you get to the state level, or very few cases go to the state level and you deal with them there. On the right side in the green, you can see the heavy caseload, the types of things that our health and human services attorneys do. Lots of child support cases, dependency and neglect cases, delinquency cases, adoptions, which is everybody's favorite, appeals of those matters, mental health cases, and involuntary commitments in the case of some mental health situations. What we really do, though, is spend a lot of time advising, research advising, collaborating, and advocating on behalf of the city. We spend a lot of time working on research memos and advice to our clients, our client agencies, including City Council, the City Manager's Office, and all the departments. We try to help people get it done and get it done right up front. We work on policies so that we don't have legal problems down the road. It's much easier to fix a problem up front than it is to litigate a problem on the back. And it's also cheaper. And the same thing can happen when you're negotiating contracts with either contractors that are building things for us or developers who are going to be building developments in the city. If you do a good job on the front end, you have fewer problems on the back end. We endeavor to create solutions and not roadblocks, and we deal with a wide variety of issues. First Amendment issues, we've had 3 or 4 of those this year. Election redistricting, how do you redistrict the wards? What are the constitutional standards for that? Eagles, I've become a wildlife expert on eagles and prairie dogs. So there's just one of the things that makes municipal practice fun, and one of the things that makes working for a municipal government fun is the variety of issues that you get to deal with. It's different every day you come in. So who do we do it for? Who are our clients? So our main client is the City and County of Broomfield, which is the corporate entity. So when push comes to shove, and it comes down to when you're making a decision, you make it for the best interest of the municipal entity. That said, the entity only acts through its people, and the policymakers for the city are the City Council and the mayor. And so we work for them, and we represent them on their matters and advise them on their matters. We also represent all the boards and commissions for the city, like the Planning and Zoning Commission, the local licensing authority, which does our liquor licensing, the Board of Equalization, and the Board of Assessment Appeals, both of which are tax entities. We also represent the city. We, of course, work closely with the City Manager's Office and all the department heads. We also represent employees on matters that are within the scope of their employment. So if a police officer is accused of excessive force, we help them with that. If, Kristen's out and she's got issues with prairie dogs or something and she needs advice, we help her with that, or her staff with that. Those are the kinds of things we do. So we've got a broad, one of the things that municipal attorneys' offices across the state have to do is represent a lot of different agencies, and that they don't always have the same interests. They can sometimes have competing interests, and we've got a job to sort of harmonize those. So one of the areas of practice that we spend a lot of time on is our human resources work. We advise on the Family and Medical Leave Act, disciplinary and corrective actions when employees aren't behaving appropriately. We work with Americans with Disability Act compliance issues, Fair Labor Standards Act compliance, and employment policies. Risk management. We defend the lawsuits that are filed against the city. Often for tort claims, that means somebody crashes on a bike or on a car and they blame it on the conditions of the road, or a city vehicle happens to be involved in it. We defend that. Now we have insurance with CIRSA, which is a collective of local governments that fund an insurance pool, and they insure us for those kinds of things, and they'll often provide outside counsel for us on those kinds of claims. But we also help with policy review to prevent claims. Land use and economic development. This is a big area. This is an area that we do a lot of work in. Fortunately, Broomfield is growing. It's got a lot of exciting new developments going on between the Baseline Project, the Arista Project. You've got Flatirons Crossing, which is an important economic driver. Lots of things. So we work with staff and developers on community development applications, reimbursement agreements for public infrastructure, investment agreements when the city's going to put bond money or urban renewal money into something. We do property acquisitions, we do water rights acquisitions, And we help with the Metro District service plans. We approve those, make sure they're consistent with city policies. Health and Human Services, again, you can see the variety of things that we do in Health and Human Services. This is such an important area of what our office does in conjunction with the Department of Human Services in terms of protecting some of the most vulnerable people in our population and making sure that they're protected and making sure that children get the support that they need from their parents. In addition, the Department of Public Health and Environment is under our Health and Human Services Department, and we help them with environmental regulations and those kinds of things. And public health things. For instance, we're participating in the nationwide opioid litigation that's taking place across the country. Then, of course, we work on oil and gas issues. We work a lot on oil and gas issues. We worked on revising and improving the oil and gas regulations. We're going through a second round of those. It'll be the next 6 months or so that we're going to be working on that. We worked on development plans and applications. We respond to a lot of citizens' questions. We work on, in the COGCC administrative area, different permitting types of applications. We're going to participate actively in the rulemaking sessions that are coming up before the COGCC. We help with the inspection program. And we just do general research on trends and that kind of thing. In addition, we've got miscellaneous legal advice and problem solving. Open records requests, we help a lot with those, set up the policy for the city to make sure that we're consistent with state law, to make sure that people have access to the records they're entitled to have access to make sure that things that are properly protected for privacy reasons or other aren't disclosed improperly. We work on state legislation. We work on local legislation. We do the drafting of the resolutions and the ordinances that City Council passes. The recent ordinance that we adopted on Airbnbs we worked on. We've worked on the trailer court, the local legislation that regulated trailer courts and made those, gave those citizens more rights against their landlords. We work on policies, contracts. We answer a lot of election questions and help the clerk and recorder and the election division on that. And then we've got day-to-day legal questions. This is a summary of our budget for this year. You can see most of it is in personnel. We've got a small supply and equipment thing that won't break the bank. Don't have much to give back. And then we've got contractual services, which helps with outside counsel or with expert witnesses if we need them. We sometimes need, and then it also helps with things like process servers and those kinds of things. So that's an overview of what we do. I'm happy to answer questions. Try to get some sleep. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Get logged in real quick. I'm Ernesto Chavez, the IT director for the City and County of Broomfield, and I'm happy to present the department to you today. So we start out with our purpose statement. The keywords in there are highlighted, but we really truly try to inspire the use of technology for the sole purpose of improving the quality of life for not only our staff, but also that then extends on to our citizens. We do this by being courageous in our actions, determined in our in our problem solving, and also responsible to ourselves and for each other. And that was carefully discussed with our team of how we wanted to perform our work and carry on all the things that we do for the city and county. Here's a kind of overview of our operating budget for this year. It's broken up between our operating expenses and what we're doing from a capital improvement budget. Our operating expenses are truly supporting almost every function. Well, not almost every function within the city and county of Broomfield. A small percentage of that is actually just for IT management purposes. Most of that is for applications, software, and systems that are then extending services directly to our community. Same thing with capital improvement budget. There is some money in there for fiber expansion, which is tech stuff. However, the rest of it is really looking at new applications and improving the performance of the software and the technologies that are used across the city and county. We're pretty simple in our divisions. We don't try to get overly fancy. We have our administration arm, which is essentially myself, our security manager, and 2 admin staff. And the rest is operations. It's the delivery of our technical services and support to the rest of the city and county. All of that is about 25 and a half full-time employees right now. We have been working to align ourselves primarily around 5 strategic areas. Customer success driven. We exist primarily to support our internal services, our customers who are our partners in delivering services throughout the community. We work hard to make sure that the activities and the processes that we have are optimized and working sufficiently, and we try to stay curious. So that's our discovery. So we're always evaluating new ways of doing business, new technologies, and other ways to help improve and inspire the use of technology, and learning, growing, and developing. We do invest significantly in making sure that not only our staff but the staff across the city and county are prepared and able to utilize the technologies and services that are available to them. So learning, growing, and developing is really important to us. And all of that goes back to citizen engagement. The IT department does not have much role in direct citizen engagement. However, we do get involved in just about every type of engagement that occurs across city and county. That being said, we are looking at ways to engage a little more directly, and those are some of our reach goals that we have for our department. I have some numbers up there. We have a couple hundred servers, 1,600 computers, 2,000 phones, and that's both desk phone and cellular phones, several databases, and about 25 geospatial or spatial-based applications that we provide. And we started putting in some fiber to support our city services last year, and we currently have about 15 miles of that. That's expected to double over the next year and could keep on going from there. All right, so as far as how we deliver services, it's really focused on 3 aspects. Technology is the last aspect, which may be interesting from an IT department saying that, hey, technology is probably the least important of all the things that we do. But the reason for that is because it always starts with people, where they're at, how we help them look through change. Are they able to learn and adapt and collaborate with products that they currently have? And then going on to the processes, are the processes aligned correctly? We work with just about every department and our project management office and our change management office, and trying to make sure that that's aligned before we start really trying to move technology into an environment. That doesn't always happen, but that's our goal. Sometimes the technology drives the process, and then the people crazy. It just it drives them to adapt, and sometimes we get there. But our purpose really is to make sure that the people and the process are aligned first, and then looking for the technology that fits within that realm. And that's the basis of my presentation. There's lots of projects and different things that we do, but I'm open up to questions.
I guess my main question is for you is what sort of internet security type systems do you guys have set up, and what do you anticipate in the future?
Okay, so internet security, so do you want, are you looking for a general overview, or are you looking for a specific, okay, so general, so from a security standpoint, so it's not just internet, it's a full spectrum of security. We have a couple of ways that we look at it. One is that we have a diversity of where our applications and products come from. We have 2 internet connections from 2 different providers, so to be able to shut us down or to do a denial of service attack, it's really it's a lot more difficult than just taking down one connection. The other part of that is we also have a guest network that you might see on your devices if you're here today. That is completely independent. So technically there's 3 internet connections. One is for the community services, and the other, we have 2 for business use, if you will. But then at the next level is really the applications. So primarily most of our office automation is on Google. So that's a whole domain, and that's managed by Google and their data centers, and that's spread out and secured in a variety of different ways. Our HR and payroll system is with Oracle, which is another cloud service, so that is independent and separated. So if someone wanted to attack our office automation capabilities, they would have a limited use, but the rest of our services would continue. We do have some, 225 servers that we maintain and operate directly. We've actually moved a majority of that, almost all of it, but maybe 25 servers to a data center in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so we're leveraging their security capabilities within their facility, which is a lot more advanced, and their recovery capabilities to make sure that the services that we're providing are available. The 25 other servers that we have internally, those are replicated, and we have a failover between this building and our detention center, so we're isolating services just in case we ever do have an incident. Our greatest risk is our access to our network, and so we're constantly evaluating and getting inspected, if you will, and once a year of things that are maybe falling behind or things that need to be addressed. Literally, we have a couple of thousand tasks that we need to address at some point, so we're looking at how we can mitigate those and reduce the impact or probability of those events being, or those risks being exploited. That's kind of the overview. I mean, we have what I would say is a typical services. We have a good virus scanners on all our devices. We have filters on our internet. We have filters on on these devices. Our mobile devices are protected through a mobile device management solution, and I would only expect that we're going to continue to become more and more sophisticated with our security management, and something that I would really like to accomplish in probably the next couple of years is getting our ID cards as our means of authentication into our networks. That'll address or mitigate a lot of issues that we're trying to get our arms around right now. Yes? ERP? Yep. Just make sure.
Using an ERP product?
So the Oracle solution is part of an enterprise resource or ERP solution. We're only using the HR and payroll functions for the most part. There's some absence management. There's some other pieces to that we bring on board. Our financial system is enterprise, which is by Harris, which is a single solution that we house inside our environment. But as we look at maturing and growing, we do anticipate that we'll probably end up investing in partially, at least the portions we need in some ERP solution.
And I would imagine you're also supporting public safety. I think you mentioned that.
Public safety, absolutely. Yeah. So the police department, their records management and mobile, the 911 center, all their capabilities. Yep. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you for listening to us today, and have a great afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Tammy Yellico, and I work in the City Manager's Office, and I'm assigned to strategic initiatives. So the comprehensive plan is a living document in Broomfield. It is our roadmap and our guideline to how we pursue policies and procedures throughout Broomfield. And our department has been assigned areas of the plan that maybe are new or that need to be looked at anew, and to have some specific resources put towards the strategic initiative. So that is in general what we do. In 2018, we set up an oil and gas division. It began with extraction oil and gas, deciding they wanted to have well pads within the city and county of Broomfield. the city council put together a citizens task force, and those folks met for 6 months. And they developed recommendations for a new chapter to the comprehensive plan called the Oil and Gas Chapter. From that chapter, we took our lead to develop oil and gas regulations, as Sean previously mentioned. And we also put those same requirements within an operator agreement with extraction oil and gas. So we help with the implementation of municipal ordinances around oil and gas, and we also help with, we do inspect the operator agreement and the municipal code for any violations of those documents related to oil and gas. The Oil and Gas Division now has 4 members total. There's an Assistant Director of Strategic Initiatives, Laura Davis, who provides oversight, and we have a policy analyst and 2 full-time inspectors. We feel very lucky to have the full-time inspectors we have. They come from, one comes, Jeff Conley, from a regulatory background with the state of Utah. He has inspected on oil and gas issues in the past. We also have a petroleum engineer, Avesta, who is very familiar with all of the phases of oil and gas production. So these 2 folks are on site every single day at our oil and gas pads throughout Broomfield. We do inspect all of our oil and gas well pads 4 times a year, quarterly. And for purposes of extraction, which is placing 6 well pads in Broomfield and 84 wells total, we are on those well sites daily. So our inspection staff is quite busy. They inspect each phase of operations for oil and gas, whether it be construction of the pad, oil and gas drilling, oil and gas hydraulic fracturing and completions, or production. They also provide oversight when older wells are being plugged and abandoned, which is a very important part of our job. So our inspection staff is quite busy. They geared up quickly, and they've been at it for, actually we've had an oil and gas inspector for 3.5 years, but we have, the 2 new ones have been on for less than a year now. But they're doing a great job. We also manage an air quality monitoring program. So this is 19 air quality stations throughout the city and county of Broomfield. They did baseline measurements to tell us what's in our air prior to the extraction operations going into place, and now they continue to measure air quality as more oil and gas is coming online. This program is run by Ajax Analytics. There is an online website that you can link to from our oil and gas page. They work closely with Colorado State University, which is important to our air quality program. They have the mobile plume tracker, which can go out into neighborhoods and tell us what's in our air. And also, Colorado State University analyzes all of our canister data. So at all of these monitoring stations, we have canisters which capture air, and we take a close look at it. And Colorado State University air scientists interpret this information for us. On our air quality monitoring program, the first quarter report is out and online, and our second quarter report, which will have a lot more information and is very friendly read, I believe, will be coming out in August. So we're just finalizing that with CSU and Ajax here in the next couple of weeks. Our division also supports emergency management activities. Particularly, we were active participants in a lot of exercises regarding oil and gas emergencies that took place prior to extraction going into operation, and we continue to be close partners with our emergency management partners, both in the police department and in the North Metro Fire and Rescue District. A key thing about the oil and gas regulations and comprehensive plan is that they were developed by a citizens task force. That task force met for 6 months. And so that is our guiding light, that chapter in the comprehensive plan. And we try every day to enforce that and implement it to protect public health, safety, and the environment. And we look at that carefully and often. So here's a little bit on our inspections program for 2019. This is for our existing sites within Broomfield. There's probably about maybe 90 wells total. These are older wells. They've been there for some time. Some date to the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, early 2000s. You can see by the summary there, 8 of 25 findings in 2019 were repaired the same day. Most times our inspectors stay on site, and if it can be repaired same day, it will be. 8 were repaired within 10 days. We do follow-up. We make sure that we follow up on all of the findings we have with each inspection report. And then 2 were repaired in more than 10 days as additional equipment was required. And then 7 of the 25 findings were referred to the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, which has oversight over oil and gas activities. And these findings were all from one operator and who has gone into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we're asking the state to keep careful sight on these wells along with us and to use their enforcement powers to make sure these findings are remedied. All of our inspection reports are online at that website there. You can also just go to broomfield.org, the oil and gas page, and on the left-hand side you will see inspections. You can click on a well pad and you can see all of our inspection reports there. So these are for the new extraction pads. As I mentioned, there are 6 proposed pads with 84 wells. We have been on site daily to these pads. We are not the only ones involved in inspections. I need to make sure I state that. We have a stormwater division that is quite active in the field. We have our engineering division who has a construction supervisor, and he is in the field all the time that the pads are being constructed and the pipeline is being put in place. Others involved in this are planning division. So it's several departments, and it's a citywide effort really to make sure there's adequate oversight over this process. We've conducted 18 of a total of 47 total inspections during the drilling phase of these pads. So they've drilled one pad, the Interchange B pad, 12 wells there, and they're now on the Livingston pad, which they are drilling 16 wells there, and they're on the 3rd well at this time. 25 of our 47 inspections were conducted during the construction phase. That's when they're actually building the drilling pad. And then 1 of our 47 total inspections to date was conducted during completion phase. Now, this does not include the number of drive-bys and site visits that are unannounced. So we have a formal inspection process where we go in with a checklist at each phase and document that all of our best management practices are in place. But we also have inspectors in the field daily who stop into these well pads and may look at specific areas of concern or to make sure that certain best management practices are working as they should. So we also have a number of other programs in addition. We are doing a soil and gas testing program. We are testing all the plugged and abandoned wells in Broomfield that extraction does not have to test under its operator agreement. These tests are ongoing. We have a private contractor that does this for us, and then we review the results of those soil gas tests in detail. This is to determine if there have been any leaks from old plugged and abandoned wells within Broomfield. So far, this has not revealed any leaks of concern. We do continuous noise monitoring at the extraction well pads. This is also done by a third party in accordance with our operator agreement. Our noise monitoring is 1,000 feet from the well pads, which is a requirement of our operator agreement, and that is ongoing. We also review all water testing results that extraction is required to take of water bodies within the spacing units where these well pads are going. And we also, as I mentioned, are responsible for an air quality testing program. This is a 4-year program. It's costing the city about $1.5 million. We pay about $123,000 quarterly for this program, and it does include, as I mentioned, the Colorado State University plume tracker, canister testing, and then there are also IoT devices, which are ongoing monitoring in the field. All this data is collected and analyzed by air scientists, and you can see that in our quarterly reports for this program. And again, the next one will be coming out in August and presented to City Council. Another area of the comprehensive plan that we have been assigned is the environmental stewardship chapter to the comprehensive plan. This chapter has been in existence for a number of years, and there was a task force in 2003, a citizen task force that started the implementation of this plan. But City Council has made the determination to take a look at it again and see, do a check-in for where we are and what further implementation strategies a new citizen task force might develop. This citizen task force is 11 citizens and 2 council members. We also work closely with other departments on this one, in particular open space and trails. We work with transportation. We work with public works on this task force, and so we try to, it's been a learning curve for the task force, and they got up to speed quickly, so they had to understand all of the environmental stewardship programs in Broomfield first, so then they could take a look at where they thought activities should take place for additional efforts. There's the link to the environmental stewardship chapter of the comprehensive plan. I talked to you about the advisory committee. So their priorities so far, they've had 4 priorities that were approved by City Council. They're doing an energy and greenhouse gas audit. This is being conducted by the University of Colorado at Denver. This is being done by graduate students under the supervision of one of the civil engineering professors. We feel lucky to have UCD performing this audit for us. It is less expensive than private contractors, and it also involves graduate students and others in important policy-making activities. So this is a real focus of the task force, and they're excited to see this data. It is intended to lay groundwork of what emissions are occurring in Broomfield, what energy we use in various sectors, and from there the task force will consider what policies would be effective to further reduce emissions and further save energy. A second audit that is a priority of the Environmental Stewardship Task Force is the waste audit. We are looking at all sources of trash in the community, how much is being collected, how much is being recycled, and that will also give data for new environmental stewardship policies. I think that is my presentation. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
For the Livingston site, we know that there were, 50 complaints in 4 days about the Gibson mud with the burning throats and burning lungs, and then they stopped stopped drilling, and they switched it after 2 days to NeoFlow. Are they going to use the NeoFlow in the rest of the projects, and do we have that in writing, or what's the process for that?
We do not have that in writing yet, I do not believe. Extraction has made representations that they will certainly use it for all the wells on the Livingston pad, and I'm confident that they will continue to use it on the other pads. Obviously, we have to continue to work on all of these issues on a day-to-day basis. It is not in writing, though, that I'm aware of. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julie McCarthy. I'm the Director of Court Services for Broomfield. and I've been with them since the inception of the courts in 2001. So I have seen a lot of changes over the years, the most recent being where the state court has decided that we aren't going to be a combined court anymore and the municipal court is separating. So that became effective July. So we're moving forward in that direction. Let's see if I can figure this out. This is our staff. Smiling Judge Davis on the top there has been the presiding judge here in Broomfield since 2012. And prior to that, he has lots of other court experience. Carla and Kim have a combined years of about 19, I think. So between all of us, we have lots of court experience. This is our budget. Like most budgets, mine is primarily driven by personnel costs. We have some contractual costs. We pay for court-appointed attorneys. We pay for interpreters, that kind of thing. But most of it is driven by personnel. So the police department writes tickets pursuant to the model traffic code and also the municipal code as far as ordinance violations go. The state statutes are written into county and state court, and those are some of the more serious cases: DUIs, driving without a driver's license, license plates, things like that. But we deal with the more minor speeding tickets, no proof of insurance, those kinds of things. We have court 3 days a week. We do reviews on Tuesdays. We have traffic cases on Wednesdays. We do adult and juvenile cases on Thursdays. And we also reserve one Tuesday a month for trials if we need them. So these are some of our numbers that we had in 2018. Total traffic cases, 5,076. We had 2,860 plea-by mails, and this allows people to take care of their cases by mail without ever having to come to court. People like that, they don't want to come and see me most often. Whoops. Those are the ordinance numbers. 779 ordinance tickets, 332 of those were juveniles. And that brought our total ticket count to 5,855 for 2018. I broke down some of the more common violations that you see as adults. Shoplifting is high up there. A lot of those come from Walmart. A lot of them come from the mall. Just different violations. Again, juveniles are high in the shoplifting department. And those are just some of the ordinances that are broken down. We also do animal tickets. Lots of dogs without their leashes on. 62 dogs at large. Then some without collars and tags, just some of the normal animal cases that we see. And then we have code enforcement, and these are the ones that Dave Shinneman talked about. As you can see, there's just a handful of cases that came before the court, like he said. So most people don't look forward to coming to see us at the courthouse, and our goal is to make that experience as pleasant as we can, even though it's a necessary evil. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Splitting.
Yeah. Oh.
With the court splitting, what happens to the other side? Is the state going to run it, or?
The state employees are there running that, yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Like I said at the beginning, we will have all of these sessions online on our website, so if you'd like to take a look at them again. If you have any general questions, I could stay and answer them if you'd like. Also, if you want to continue this conversation, please look and talk directly to either the city manager's office or the department head. Both would be excited to talk to you about anything further. Thanks so much for coming today.